Good afternoon, everyone. Did all the morning chores. The little chicks are fine. Had to do a little bit of adjustments with their stack that they're on. I had to take out one tote yesterday, turn off the heat lamp because they got super hot, because that building gets super hot. So then I went back up right before evening, um, and they looked cold. So I turned on their heat lamp, and I thought, it's still so far away, and the temperature of the building would go down. So I put a chick mat underneath the one end of their tote. So they're fine now. I just turned off their heat lamp. I've been up there 3 or 4 times. They've had zucchini, they've had fresh waters twice, and so later on today we'll do another snack with them. So they're waiting. My 4 week olds, they'll be 5 weeks old this week, right? Ugh, I can't even keep track anymore. Yeah, they'll be 5 weeks old, and then the littler ones will be 2 weeks old this week. Okay, and then we have eggs in the incubator. There'll be another 2 weeks. Yeah. Okay, chickens coming out of the incubator. Okay, this is not going to be a fun video. This is not going to be one of those great, wonderful, warm feeling videos. Have you ever heard of the book, How to Be a Good Housewife? It was written in 1954. Now, if you have watched Leave It to Beaver or any of those older 50s sitcoms, you will see what was portrayed as the good housewife. The house was spotless, the kids were spotless. Um, there was a meal cooked at every meal. There was not a thing out of place. And before the husband got home, the wife refreshed, made sure she was beautiful and ready to serve him as he walked in the door. You know, if that's what a woman chooses, that's fine. But when men are saying that's how women should be, that's not good. If you find someone who wants to be in that type of lifestyle, that's wonderful. But why is it so imperative for men to say that all women should be that way? It's not going to happen. In most cases, it takes two to raise the children. The lack of men that would be willing to support a family in such a manner, knowing that two incomes is better, maybe only having one child, having family to be the daytime child watchers while the woman is at work, or families learn how to cope, and one works on first shift, one works on third shift, and they do it that way. But why is it that we're seeing this broodmare and good housewife kind of mentality coming back into our society after so many years? I was born in 1969, so women had rights. And let me tell you, I struggled with sexual harassment. I struggled with sexual discrimination throughout my life. I struggled with it. It's getting better. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's getting better. So it annoys me to think that men think that all women should want to be that. I didn't want to be that. I was raised by military men. My dad taught me to be independent. My grandfather taught me to be independent. And of course, my mother is a role model for me to be independent. Now, I'm not going to say that, my dad's mother was one of those good housekeeping mothers. The kids were spotless. She had 2 sons. She took care of them. She took care of the house. She took care of the husband. But you know what? In the end of the day, when it came down to her independence, she had none. So she was always without a way to leave if she wanted to. I would never sacrifice my independence to serve as a housewife. That's not me. If that's what someone else wants to do, and it's a great partnership and it's a great marriage and everything is hunky dory and so on and so forth, and you're not afraid of being, replaced later on when the kids are in college or so on and so forth, or, you know, there's so many aspects of why women should not jump into that role unless they want to. And there's no reason why men should ask all women to accept that as being a woman, because that's not how I was raised. If we go back to the 1950s with the women, which it's going that route. I mean, we've already talked about women being treated like broodmares, which is happening. That's happening. But now you have men saying, well, this is how women should be. This is how it should be. This is why everything's all screwed up. So you want to blame everything on women who want to be independent from men. And I'm not talking about not being married or not having relationships. I'm talking about if shit goes down, they can take care of themselves. Pardon my language. Relationships don't always last forever. And if you have one party that's been dependent upon that other party and has nothing independently for themselves, what's going to happen to that person? Or is it going to cause them to feel indebted and stay in a really bad relationship that maybe is extremely abusive? Men that have the power over the money and the control are sometimes very abusive. I'm going to say that 90% of the time they're abusive. No, we don't need to go back to the 1950s and be how to be the good housewife. You're not going to see me clutching my pearls and making sure that my hair is all tucked and where it needs to be in my little apron and everything when my husband gets home. Are you kidding me? If he wants to find me, he'll probably find me out in the barn with chicken poop all over me. I make sure there's food cooked. I make sure there's meals in the house. I make sure there's food in the house. I am not a good housekeeper because I always had a full-time job. J-O-B. Women should have J-O-Bs. And here's the thing. If men are deciding when they're going to get married, so should the women. So women, let me tell you something. If you're not married and you haven't gotten into a relationship, or you're thinking about getting into a relationship, put as much money away as you can. Always put as much money away as you can. Because if you happen to get in one of these situations where you are in a situation of being dependent upon a man, you can have the floor dropped out from underneath you in a heartbeat. I'm not saying that good relationships are what I'm not talking about good relationships where you've sat down, you've made a plan, and financially it is the best option for you and your family, and you're doing this to raise your family, and you're committed to it, and you're committed to your marriage, so on and so. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is these men think that every relationship should be that way. They're saying that every woman should stay home, take care of the kids, take care of the house, take care of the husband, but have nothing for themselves except for that. I don't go along with that. Um, that was something that my husband and I discussed when we got together. I said, listen, I said, I'll always work. I said, but when I have a little one, I really would like to stay home. And we had talked that out. That's what was going to happen. But that was because I was scarred from a past experience. I needed it. I never got it, but I needed it. But I always had a full-time job. When my husband's jobs were few and far between, I made sure the bills were paid. I made sure there was food. I made sure everything was taken care of. I just don't want young women to fall back into this situation. We've lost our rights in so many ways. And now these men, these white Christian nationalist men, are pushing, pushing, and pushing. Not everybody wants to live your lifestyle, dudes. They don't. Not everybody wants to be a woman who's going to be staying home with kids and making sure the house is clean. They want a career. They want to be independent. They will love you no matter if they are working or not. Maybe it's about love. Maybe it's not about finding someone to serve you. I'm just saying. You'll have a great day. Hugs from a distance.